What about when you're stuck in a job that isn't when you're. Hey.
I came to join.
Obviously?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh. Hello.
Carol's birthday's in 23 minutes.
I know, this is so exciting.
I'm so sad. I'm so sad, Carol. I don't want to be here. I'm so sad.
Okay.
Oh, Austin, remind me to ask you a question.
All right. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Keep going.
Okay.
So, we skipped. We're not doing things in order anymore, guys. When your calling is your job, and then the verse is, whatever you do, work wholeheartedly as for the Lord, not for men. Okay, guys? What about when you're stuck in a job that isn't what you're called to do forever? There are times when you're doing the job that is not your calling. Maybe it's nowhere near your calling. Maybe you feel like every hour that you work at your job, you're doing the opposite of your calling. Oh my gosh, I've been there. Haven't you been there?
Yes. Very much.
When like you feel like God's called you to do something and then you're literally doing the complete opposite, and it's not like you even want to. It's just like almost feels like the cards you've been dealt and you're like, God, what the heck? You know?
Mm-hmm.
In those situations, you are called to be faithful with your work, working as for the Lord and not for men. That's so hard. Because in that moment, you almost feel like frustrated with the Lord because you want to do what he's called you to do. But it's literally saying, instead of being frustrated with him, just dedicate and work your hardest as you're doing it for him, not for men. And I think when you realize like you're working for the Lord, not for your boss, you don't really it frees you so much because you're not really led by people's approval anymore, or them like celebrating you. Not that those things won't be good, because we are human and we love those things. But we know that even if somebody does us wrong, or even if we're not recognized, that. And I gained a lot from that experience. Hardly anyone goes from realizing their dreams to discovering their calling to getting to do their perfect dream job. We all have parts of our jobs that aren't our favorite, but we all have to do them. It's true. We're never going to have a perfect job. Ever. Even people that stay at home and like that is what they do, like a full-time like mom, like that's like what we dream of being, like, right? All you got to do is take care of the kids. You know what I mean? Like do like fun stuff, like hold the household up, like, and it's a lot of work. But then you get in that and you realize it is so much work than you even thought of.
Right.
Or like that are retired. Then they become bored. Like it's everyone has something that they're like
even
fighting.
if it's what you always wanted, there's parts of it that you probably won't like.
Right. Like every single thing, it turns out to be exhausting, you know?
Definitely.
When I was figuring out what my career was going to look like, I was really poor. I mean, barely having enough to get by, having to ask my parents for money, carpooling to save gas. Me and Carol know about that.
Mm-hmm.
Selling things on Craigslist, poor. And so were a lot of my friends. Me too. At that time, many of us were on our first few steps of our creative careers, and those first few steps looked like shuffling in the porridge line at Oliver Twist. I nannied, I worked at the local taco, I took jobs I found online for editing and writing copy. I was hustling and I had to, and I never would have been able to make it doing what I'm doing now, what I love, if I hadn't worked hard at those jobs that weren't my calling.
Dang. That's true. Even if you look at the Bible, I feel like it's so hard because like when we're going through like a season, it's like, okay, this is not where I want to be or where I feel like God's called me, but there's a way to get there, and we have to be loyal and faithful through the way instead of giving up on God before. Like if you look at the Bible, the story, a lot of the times the people, like the things that they were going through that led them to where they're supposed to be, like it probably did. If they looked at just at that moment, it probably didn't make sense. And if they were like, oh, this is not it, and straight away, then they wouldn't have gotten there, right?
So every single story in the Bible, every story, God like loves to take plot twist. He loves when we don't know what's coming next. He loves it. You've got to be brave enough to be faithful. even when you don't want to be. You've got to be brave enough to work hard now for a payoff that won't come until later, but it's so worth it. And sometimes you might not even see the correlation or the connection or the pathway between what you're doing now and like what God's called you to do, but he sees it and he makes it. And like I think about the story of David and how he literally was like his job was to tend to the sheep and like fight off the wolves and the bears that like would come and try to attack the sheep. And little did he know when he was just a shepherd's boy that God was preparing him in the field by himself when he was the forgotten
Right.
son, that like all of his brothers were like good looking and they were all like off at like war and he was forgotten about, kind of just left in this field to just tend the sheep. He would have never imagined that God is preparing him to be king later on, in like while he was doing that. Like he would never thought while his brothers were out there, they looked like the ones that were qualified, like they were getting everything right. The enemy would love nothing more than for us to look left and right and say, oh, look at how great they're doing or how good they're looking. And I'm just forgotten about, and God's forgotten about me. I'm being faithful to where God's put me and he's just forgetting about me. It's not true. God is like molding you. He's making you into what you need to be so that when he takes you to where he's calling you to go, you know that it's him who's brought you there and you won't be crushed by like the pressure that will be all around you, or your pride won't come in the way and like destroy what he had for you. Like right now we are in the process of being like, what is it called when like you put
Molded.
no, a diamond.
Yeah.
What is it
Oh,
called? Yeah, what is it called? Refined. Like we're in like a season of like refinement, and that comes like you think about a diamond, it's like an ugly black rock, and then until you apply pressure to it, and then it becomes this beautiful
black.
diamond. Like
The black rock.
our seasons of our life that are the most hard, the, like uncomfortable, painful, or feel like we're being pressured on all sides is like what creates us into something
Yeah.
beautiful and like makes our story what it is. No good story is ever easy, you know?
So true. It is so
Even the
true.
Hallmark has some sort of plot twist. We all see them
True.
coming, but you know what I'm, you know?
No, yeah. A lot of
You want to
people
know
have
how to overcome depression? I've had seasons where I've been so depressed. You starve the lies, you starve your thoughts that aren't true, and you hold them to what God says. I love the verse that talks about like holding every thought captive and making it obedient to Christ. Like every single thing that comes in my mind, even if I'm feeling depressed, I have to remind myself I'm not depressed. That is not who I am. It's not what God made me. And I will not buy into the mindset that this is who I am, because if I buy into the lie that I am depressed or I am an anxious person, that means I've already stopped fighting, because you're not going to fight something you've already come to agreement with. But
right.
if you're saying I'm what I am and you're actually fighting for that freedom, you will find that freedom, because that isn't who God's called you to be. And with God, you will have victory. Like he's already won victory over your life. So it's just whether or not you're going to decide to put those labels on yourself or to continue to fight and walk out in truth. I don't know
So
about y'all, but I didn't
true.
want to found ever, you know?
So true,
And I
bro.
won't.
Like
I go through highs and lows.
we're so quick to like accept like how we feel, right? Like the enemy would be like anxious, like, well, that's just me. I just have, well, which is true. It's not that you don't have it. It's like valid you feeling it, but you can't just let that define you. It's like the enemy's telling you all these lies, and then God is telling you all this truth about who you are. You literally pick which one you're gonna believe, and it's like every day you have to choose which one you're gonna feed
Right.
into.
Right. It's true. It's our choice, which is why we have to put on the full armor of God every day. And like that's why me and my dad, like the podcast we came out with today was so powerful, not only in my own life, but I believe for you guys, because God just spoke so much. It's nothing we said. It's like all things God's been revealing to us and like putting us through. Because there's been opposition on all sides. If you guys watched my last YouTube video, you heard about all of that, but all that God's been doing. So if you guys, this is something that's sparking something in you, you guys need like an outlet, you want to learn more about it, you can look up the Ali Shinaki podcast on Apple Music,
So good.
Spotify, like, and you can listen to like what God has been revealing. I'm telling you, it will change your life because it's changed mine. So look up my name with podcast at the end, and it's the last podcast I did with my dad. It is so good. You know what I mean?
Good. Literally just listen to it in the car or something, like instead of listening to music, and you don't even know how much you might need it. I wanna listen to that one still, Ali. She was gonna send it to me
It's
early.
still It changed my life. I'm telling you something.
I'm so excited for it.
Oh my gosh, Carol. 13 minutes. 13 minutes.
Let's go.
How was tonight? Was it fun?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I love going live with Carol.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all that are subscribed to me, you guys are the absolute best. We're gonna hop in. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick while Austin talks Carol, and then me and Carol are gonna hop into 2 last battles going into her birthday for her and make it really special. You guys are fam, so we're all gonna be here for her.